So today I'm very excited to officially announce that the Cutlerylover knife is going to be available for pre-order. I did work with Bash & Gear again. They are an amazing company. It is an American company. The knives are produced overseas just to keep the prices down, but they're awesome to work with, just back and forth. I literally drew up a design. They made like a CAD version of it. I did a bunch of changes, just really good communication back and forth, worked out all the details. They got me these two production knives a while back, or excuse me, pre-production knives, these prototypes to just kind of check out. So first we're going to talk about the options and prices and stuff. All right, then I'll get into the actual video on the knife and the design and what I thought of it once I actually got it in hand and started using it. So you can see there's two different versions here. All right, G10 scales and carbon fiber scales. Now the carbon fiber looks awesome. It really, really looks nice. And this is the first one that I got, and it just feels great. It's super smooth. It's nice and slick. Even though the scales are smooth, there's plenty of jimping and stuff, which we'll go over, so it's not like it's gonna fall out of your hand or anything. But the second I got the G10 version of it, I really fell in love with it. All right, so between the two, obviously the carbon fiber just looks awesome. Really, really looks nice, but I do prefer the G10. So this will be available in 4 different versions, all right? 2 different blade styles and 2 different handle scales. So you could do either D2 or you can do S35VN, and you can do either G10 or you can do carbon fiber. All right, so the cheapest version is going to be a G10 scale with D2 blade, and that'll be $70. Then one step up will be a D2 blade and carbon fiber scales, that'll be $85. Then next will be an S35VN blade with the G10, which is $115, which honestly would be my preferred version of it. I think that would be the best, just from use, standpoint, because I do prefer the little texturing on the G10. And then the most expensive version will be $125 for the S35VN with the carbon fiber. All right, so those are 4 different options depending on whatever look and feel, and performance level you want to go. Now, both of these prototypes I got are in D2 just to keep it cheaper for the testing purposes. So that's the actual steel that I was using in testing both of these knives. All right, the S35VN, obviously I have experience with it specifically through Bash & Source. It's amazing. It holds an amazing edge. Now, as far as the D2 goes, totally adequate for the price range, an awesome steel that a lot of people have a lot of experience with at this point as well. So let's get into some specs real quick here. All right, the blade is 3¼ inches long. All right, the handle is 4½ inches long at its longest point. Obviously, you can see it's a lot higher on the back side and dips down in the front. All right, so the overall length is 7 5/8 inches, and it is 3.72 ounces. All right, obviously blade steel and handle scales will just, depend on whatever you pick. I drew this knife out and went back and forth on a couple different revisions and stuff, but the second I actually got it, because I was always looking at like this, all right? When I got it in the mail, I was just kind of fondling it and, using it and looking at it, and immediately I noticed that the entire handle shape here, all right, looks like a fish. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it, okay? I wanted skeletonization in the handles to lighten it up a little bit, also to give it a different look, as well as if you want to take the scales off, you had the option to do a cord wrap, okay? Having some different cutouts in the handle makes it a lot easier for cord wrapping. All right, so yeah, the design happened to look like a fish. This was totally 100% by accident. All right, so you can see kind of a fish eye here. We have kind of the, not necessarily gills, but maybe the coloring of like a clownfish or something like Nemo. And then obviously the, fin on the back there. Everything about it just looked like a fish. So I started looking up different fish, species and stuff. And a very common aquarium fish is a swordtail. If you've never seen a swordtail fish, it's a small aquarium fish, but it has a very long, distinctive fin in the back, okay, that looks kind of like a sword blade. So obviously we have our fish, we have that long fin, it fit. I always like the idea of using different types of animal names for knives. They represent all different things, and it's just a very common practice in the knife industry. So I thought it'd be pretty cool. So that's how I came up with the name Swordtail. It just fit. It looks like a swordtail fish to me. So when designing this knife, one of the main features that I wanted to have was 2 different grip positions, okay? Down here, you can see how this is kind of a fatter end and then narrows up right here. You have a first finger choil, so when you're holding this, your thumb rests right here, okay? And your pointer finger rests right in this nook. It's extremely comfortable to choke back on, okay? So you have more length. But also, when you're using the second finger choil, you have a full grip in your hands, all right? You're able to choke up all the way if you want, or you can hold back here. It's just super, super comfortable in the hands. I went with jimping all the way down the spine, a really long run of it, so no matter what position your hand is, you can see your thumb is always going to land on that jimping. And they did the jimping very, very well. All right, they did a 45 cut on the spine of the blade as well as inside here on this finger choil, so it's rounded on the edges. Not like specifically rounded, but there's a 45 and then it's soft in the edges, all right? So it's comfortable in your finger here, as well as on the jimping, it locks in, but it's not gonna cut up your thumb or anything. All right, I really wanted to go with a flat grind on this blade. All right, so we have a flat grind and also it follows the same lines as that handle. So just a styling point, doesn't really, do much for performance other than just looking really nice, but the flat grind does help with performance. I've always been a huge fan of flat ground blades. They just slice awesome. Now the hardest part in designing a knife to me is the blade shape. I can do 30 different blade styles that would fit 30 different types of people. So I wanted to do something that was kind of universally liked or enjoyed. So I went with a very simple drop point here. I wanted the tip to be enough to, pointy enough to penetrate pretty easily, which it does in cardboard, but still not too pointy where it's gonna snap off easily or anything like that, right? The main idea behind this knife is being a larger neck knife or smaller EDC blade. All right, so I wanted this to be able to use a little bit harder, especially, with the jimping on the back and the different handle positions and stuff. That's the whole idea and concept behind this knife. So I lined up a bunch of different neck knives that I've loved over the years, not only for size comparison, in case you have one of these other knives, you can get an idea how big this is going to be, but also to talk about the size, because that was the biggest challenge in designing this knife. How big did I want it to be? I wanted it to be a neck knife, but what I really wanted was to kind of fill an empty market, and that was for larger neck knives. One of my favorite neck knives of all time, as you guys know I carry so much, is the Cold Steel Spike. This is a large neck knife. This is a knife that is a little bit too large for a lot of people to carry around the neck, but I know a few people who carry this, belt style. So that was the idea, was to have more versatility, not just a really small neck knife that you probably wouldn't carry on the belt, but something that you can go either way. So half the people out there might buy this knife and use it around the neck, having a nicer, larger option like I like, or maybe it's too big for a neck knife for you, or maybe you just don't like neck knives. Not everyone's into that whole thing. So now you have an option for a really good EDC fixed blade. All right, so just going through the list here real quick. On the bottom is a CRKT Minimalist. Everyone knows it and loves it, right? We have a Browse Blade Silent Soldier, CRKT Spew, MT Knives Genesis, CRKT Obaki, okay, which is very similar in size, but a little bit smaller. Then, of course, the Swordtail, which is just a hair smaller or shorter than the Cold Steel Spike. All right, so that's where it fits as far as the size range. It is a large neck knife, about as large as I would probably ever go. I wouldn't go much bigger than this. The big difference between the Spike and this, even though I love them both for neck knives, the Spike is awesome. It's very slender, very similar to all these designs, okay? You can see that the Browse Blades is kind of chunky, but it's also shorter. As much as I love these larger neck knife options, they're both very slender. All right, there's nothing wrong with that, okay? They're nice and sleek and stuff. They have narrow blades and everything. And they're super comfortable to handle. I mean, both these are comfortable knives, but there's not enough handle for me to have that confidence to use it a little bit harder. And that's really what I wanted to reach. I wanted to fulfill that emptiness in the market, to have a little bit of a larger neck knife. It's still a small fixed blade overall, but as far as a neck knife goes, it's on the big size. You're not gonna go much bigger than this at all. All right, but I wanted to have that handle that could really lock in your hand. All right, so that's where I was going with the idea behind this design. All right, so I zoomed in here so you guys can see more detail on the handle and everything. Again, you can see that fish profile. Like I said, once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it anymore. That's why I had to name it the Swordtail. But if I take one up here to show you real quick, G10 version compared again to the carbon fiber. The carbon fiber is solid carbon fiber, by the way. It's not laminate. All right, so it is genuine carbon fiber all the way through. All right, when thinking about which one you might want, keep in mind this one is super smooth, like glass smooth. Okay, it has a totally different look. It has a sheen to it. It's nice and smooth in the hand. It feels great. It looks great. But if you're going for something that you want just a little bit more grip, the texture on this G10, it's also flat. There's no glare or sheen to that, so there might be consideration. But even though I like the look of carbon fiber more than G10, I have to say, in using these, I just really prefer this G10. It feels great. It's just a very fine texturing on there. Just feels really good in the hand. So there's a couple other things I want to mention. There is a lanyard hole on there on the bottom, in case you wanted to throw a lanyard on here. But also the skeletonization on this. Not only did I want it to just not be so plain, because first I had it designed without that, and I thought, it's just a little bit plain. I wanted to do something to it. But I also realized that when you skeletonize a knife, it's obviously going to lighten up the weight of it. Because it's on the larger side, I want it to be, as light as possible. but also for the people who like cord wrapping their handles. A lot of people like taking the scales off and using paracord and doing all different types of wraps and stuff. When you have holes in the handle, it makes it a lot easier to do that. All right, and then considering that people might be taking these handle scales off, I wanted to go with a very simple hardware. So we went with flathead screws on purpose. All right, not everyone has Torx bits. Obviously, if you're a knife guy or knife gal, you probably have a set by now, because that's what most of the industry uses, you know, Torx head screws. But I want to make it very simple. All right, these are larger screw heads, so just keep in mind if you are taking these off to use the appropriate size flathead screwdriver, all right, so it doesn't strip it. So I decided to do something a little bit unique and different. There will be the Bash & Gear logo on one side and there will be the Cutlerylover logo on the other side, but they will be on the handle underneath the scales. All right, so when you order this knife, this is how you're gonna see it. It's gonna be completely sterile. All right, if the off chance, you know, someone makes a copy of this knife or something in the future, to authenticate it, you take the scales off and you can see it underneath. All right, so I thought that was a really cool idea just because not everyone's into different types of logos and not everyone will agree what looks good or not. All right, I originally, like I said, having it laser etched in the handle, I thought that was kind of cool, but then I'm like, well, you know, it's going to change the texture of it, especially on this carbon fiber. It's so smooth here. I didn't want to have like, you know, a weird textured spot. So ultimately, that's what I decided. You guys can let me know down in the comment section what you think of that, but it will look just like you see it now, okay? And, you know, to ensure that you have a real one, you can take the scales off and see it underneath. All right, so let's talk about the sheath a little bit here. When I first got this in the mail, the fit is perfect just because of the design. It makes it very easy for a Kydex sheath. It snaps in, you know, very firmly. It's not going to fall out or anything. All right, but it's still very easy to get out. You can still pull it out. All right, but like most knives, I prefer to just use my thumb to push away from the sheath. All right, so it's not so, you know, erratic. It's very precise, you know, to remove that. The first thing though I didn't like about it is that they were large. Obviously, you can see there's the blade form, but there's a lot of extra sheath. The final version of this knife, the sheath will be smaller. It will be as small as we could possibly make it. This will also come with a Techlock. I'm not sure if it's Techlock brand or if it's going to be a similar version. And that is specific to the guys out there who want to put it on the belt. If you want to belt carry it in different positions, if you want to, you know, add it to a bag or something. If you're not into the whole neck knife thing, you will have that option. Okay, that's where the, you know, EDC fixed blade comes in as opposed to a neck knife. Also, you can see there's a little drainage hole towards the tip there, just in case it gets wet. There will be a ton of different grommets on there, just so you do have more mounting options. But overall, I mean, even though this is larger, I did carry these just as is, and they were totally fine. It's just for me, I just see like, you know, wasted Kydex, that's all. The smaller the form factor, the better. Also, when I first got it, it came with paracord, which is totally fine, but I put on one of my own ball chain necklaces, which I much prefer for a lot of different, you know, neck knives they have. So I talked with the guys at Bash & Gear, and they will be providing a ball chain necklace with this. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I think I covered everything. I just love the way it feels. It locks in the hand, just awesome. The full flat ground blade is just amazing. I like the way it looks, obviously. I designed it. But it is very comfortable. It's one thing, you know, drawing something out. It's another thing actually having it in your hand. And I'm very, very happy with how this came out. I love everything about it. So yeah, I mean, if you guys are interested, the pre-order information is down below. Everyone who buys this knife is supporting the channel, and I greatly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I'm really excited about it. The more successful this campaign is, the more knives I can make in the future. And I have a lot of ideas. But yeah, let me know down in the comment section if you guys end up buying one, which version you got. And I'm excited about it. It's awesome. So thanks for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. I will keep you updated as to the orders on this, and of course, once they're produced and once they're shipped out and all that. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video. Take care.